All right, guys, let's talk about it. You know what I'm talking about? Let's talk about double wristing and the Apple Watch. Big controversy topic. I want to get into my story behind double wristing watches and wearing an Apple Watch all together. We're going to lump these two together today. I finally want to, I don't know if you guys ever noticed before what was on my wrist. I don't know if you've noticed that I do double wrist with a bracelet always. That's just my style. I do that every single day. Why do I do it? That's the question. So let's start with the reason why I purchased an Apple Watch. So I purchased my Apple Watch in the beginning of my watch collecting career for the functions and everything that came with it, right? I wanted it to track my sleep because I was curious to see what my quality of sleep was. I wanted it to track my workouts, and I wanted it to be able to check my messages when I'm in a business meeting setting. And I'll explain to you guys what I meant by that. So for me at the time, I wasn't collecting watches. It was just before I started watch collecting that I got my Apple Watch. And I had an Amazon card. I always kind of was curious about the Apple Watch. And me loving Apple products, I have an iPhone. I'm shooting this right now off of one, and I always go with Apple, whether it be phones, laptops, whatever. So I said, you know what? Let me go for an Apple Watch. It has all those features and functions. It connects through Bluetooth, phone calls, my wrist will ring and vibrate and do all that stuff. And it'll track all those things that I was interested in tracking. Now, here's what the Apple Watch did for me. I see a lot of people making videos talking about how the Apple Watch is not an Apple Watch, how the phone should then be called a pocket watch, so on and so forth. Here's my deal with it, okay? I have no problem with people saying that the Apple Watch is not a watch. I respect all opinions and all calibers, if you will, right? If you don't think Invicta is a watch, if you don't think that the Apple Watch is a watch, whatever your feelings are, I totally 100% respect it. I don't like when I hear it. And here's the reason why. And maybe I'm being biased. In fact, I know I'm being biased because it actually is a story that I'm giving you guys that happened to me. I received my Apple Watch, and before that, I never liked anything on my wrist. I didn't wear any rings. I didn't wear any jewelry. It just wasn't my thing. So I wasn't accustomed to wearing anything on my wrist. And the Apple Watch really led me to be more comfortable with wearing a watch in general, it having the features that it had and me wanting those features in my life. I was wristing the watch from the moment I got it. I actually really loved it. Had no issues with the power, having to charge it every 2 days because I dumbed down a lot of the settings so like that it could last at least 48 hours or close to it. And the watch actually opened the doors to other wristwatch. It actually opened the doors to real watches. It made me comfortable keeping it on wrist. And that's the reason why I'm a little passionate about going up against people saying it's not a watch. And it's just my thing. You know, I know it's like you're probably saying to yourself, well, a bracelet could have got you into watches if it was getting you comfortable with wearing something. But it brought my curiosity to watches because it was an actual time-telling device, if you will. Will you allow me to say that at least? That's what made me comfortable with transitioning to a quartz watch and a mechanical watch eventually. So by that, that's just my opinion on it, guys. I will never tell somebody publicly that says, hey, I got my watch, and they show me the Apple Watch, and I'm like, that's not a watch. I'm never going to say that, dude, that's not a watch. You got to get a real watch. I would say, hey, have you ever thought about getting a mechanical version of a watch? And then that might jog them to say, no, I don't know what a mechanical watch is, or I haven't purchased one. And I'd rather keep it more on the positive side of things to try and just grow the community or be somebody who is a positive type of vibe towards that. And listen, I'm not saying that people are being negative to it. What I'm saying is that if somebody's watching your video and you're sitting there saying that an Apple Watch is not a watch and you should blah, 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 and you're just like chopping them down, that same person might just feel bad and just say like, you know what, they're right. You know, it's not a real watch. I'm not really into watches, so never mind for watches. And I don't want that to happen to even one person out there that's considering to actually wear a timepiece that's mechanical or quartz battery powered outside of a smartwatch. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So let's get into why I double wrist, and I'll be very specific for you guys. I was signed up to a Tony Robbins talk. At the time, COVID was happening and he was doing everything online. My wife and I was watching it. And, he's a big guy into movement, into, bringing your emotions out through actions and through loud shouting. And there's so much more to it, but I'm giving you guys like the super chopped down version of it. But at the end of the day, Tony Robbins is big into like getting yourself excited by movement and getting charged up and then taking action and going after things and everything else. But when he was broadcasting that, he was actually wearing a Richard Mille. I'm not sure which one exactly. I'm not sure if it's the bubble one, but it was all white on his left hand, and then his smartwatch was on his right hand. I think it could be the other way around. It doesn't matter. And I already owned the Apple Watch at that point, and I believe I started purchasing other watches with that, and it stuck with me. It's not that I wanted to be Tony Robbins. I don't want to be anybody but myself, right? But we can definitely be inspired by other people and what they do. And if something makes sense for you, then you can absolutely move forward and do what they're doing. And if it fits for your life, there's nothing wrong with that. Listen, everything that we've learned as a human being has been learned by somebody else doing. So don't feel afraid to double wrist if that's what you truly want to do. That being said, when I did first start double wristing, I was self-conscious about it. I was worried about people asking me, why are you wearing two watches? And I guess the only people that would be saying that are those that are not really into watches, because had it not been, and it's a person that doesn't claim the Apple Watch to be an Apple Watch, why would you say I'm wearing two watches? You see what I'm going here? So I was apprehensive at first, and I was like, I knew that that comment was going to come eventually. And, I thought about hiding the watches, but I ultimately landed on, I'm very confident in my decisions. I'm very confident in who I am, and I'm unapologetically myself, right? So if in my heart of hearts, I want to wear two watches, one of which being a smartwatch, or two mechanical watches, or four mechanical, whatever it may be, I'm going to do it. And I'm not going to be afraid of people's judgment on it. What is it to them? How is it affecting them? How is it hurting them? Is the question. So if you guys are out there and you've been dancing with the idea, maybe you own an Apple Watch, maybe you own two watches that you would like to pair together, however that assortment may be, do it. Do it, and don't be afraid of people making comments or getting looks. People are always going to have opinions, and their opinions shouldn't affect what you really want to, or how you really want to express yourself, I should say. So with that being said, if the double wristing fits in my life, and the Apple Watch being on my wrist fits for my life, because I like to track my heart rate. I like to track my fitness goals. I like to track my calories burnt for the day, my sleeping, everything all encompassing. And I also find myself in my day job having a lot of business meetings, talking to people one-on-one, and I'm really big on giving a person attention. I have two phones for my job because I have a work phone and I have my personal phone. It's just how I like to separate the two, just to keep things a little bit more fluid, as far as I know if this phone's ringing and I know if this phone's ringing, what's what. But when I'm in my business meetings and I'm in my professional settings, I don't like to take my phone out and to show the person that I'm breaking that kind of attention with them, because it's just not, the right thing to do in those settings. But I do have my personal phone, and anybody who's my family or my wife can contact me directly through there, obviously, if there's an emergency or if there's something going on. So if I want to check my text really quickly, it's right there on my wrist. It looks like I'm just looking at the time. I have the messages icon right in the front. I could just press it real quick, just take a quick peek at it, make sure everything is okay, and move on with my time and move on with my day. So for me, it just was fitting, and really, to be honest with you, that was more like a byproduct reason that happened after the fact. It's something that I started doing once I noticed having two phones and having the Apple Watch, and I would just check it or whatever the case may be. But the real reason were the reasons that I said before. And I feel cool. wearing two watches. I feel cool having the balance of it. And it did start by me seeing somebody else doing it. And I don't care what anybody has to say negatively towards it. I mean, I'm sorry if it bothers you, but if you're interested in doing the same thing, I applaud you to just do what feels best for you. You know, you may even do it in the beginning and just see that you don't really like it, and that's okay too, but at least you crossed that bridge and you got there on your own before allowing other people's potential opinions steer you away from that. Now, I have had people stop me and flat out ask me, and usually it's not a random person. Usually it's somebody that I'm doing business with, or it's somebody that I'm somehow affiliated through the companies or something like that. And they'll flat out ask me, and they'll say it with the chuckle sometimes. And my response to it is, I'm just really into watches, and two watches are really fitting for my lifestyle. Um, I don't know if that's my answer every single time. I kind of just say whatever comes to mind. You know, sometimes I've said that I'm just a big watch enthusiast and I really enjoy wearing two watches. And that's pretty much the end of the conversation. It's not like they tar and feather me after. It's not like they're like, shame, shame. How dare you wear two watches? You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's almost as if we think like a crowd of people are going to be like, stop, that guy's wearing two watches, lock him up. You know what I mean? It's not a big deal. So that's my hot takes on it. Those are the reasons why I wear two watches. I'm very proud to do that. In fact, even in the watch convention, the Watch and Wind that I went to in New York, I wore two regular watches. I had a watch that I custom made for Watch Crunch, and then I had my SKX on. And I wanted to take a picture with Mark, and he was wearing four watches. And you know, I'm going to a watch setting, so for me, I didn't want to bring the Apple Watch because I felt like I wanted to display those two watches more so, right? Um, and that's all right, you know, in my opinion. Now, with me telling you guys that I don't really like when people say that the Apple Watch is not a watch, I rather lean towards the positive side. Here's the deal with that, okay? And I'm not double backing on this. I'm just speaking as a watch enthusiast and how I would go about things. If I'm going to a watch meetup, am I going to wear just my Apple Watch? No. When you go to a watch meetup, people want to see something different, or some people want to see something that has more personality in your selection of watches. And unfortunately, one thing I can agree upon is that the Apple Watch doesn't have its own individual identity in it for you to bring it to a watch meetup and say, hey guys, check out my Apple Watch, blah, blah, blah. And then you tap on it and you're like, oh, it's dead, I didn't charge it, whoops. You know what I'm saying? Or change like a face screen on it to like a Rolex and say like, try to be suave, which I've done that too, but you know, you can't talk about your Apple Watch. It doesn't have its own individuality, It's in that aspect, yes, it is more like a phone because everybody has an Apple phone for the most part, or some kind of smartphone, and they all do the same thing. So, there's just, that's the best quality thing and it has the most features in it, and that's that. So if you are wearing an Apple Watch, I will consider you in the watch gang, but you can't pull up in a watch meeting with it. I'm sorry. That's the only thing you can pull up in a watch meeting with it. If you still show interest in it, I'll give you the pass. Your boy will give you the pass. I'm not going to ostracize you, but we're not going to be able to talk about it. You know what I'm talking about? Like, we're not going to be like, what's the complication in it? What's the year? You know what I mean? Like, you're going to miss on that factor. Now, we'll still be able to talk about what I have. We'll still be able to talk about where maybe you should go if that is your only watch and you came to a watch meetup. Have at it. Have a conversation. Matter of fact, I implore you to pull up to a watch meeting with it. I'm literally changing things in this video, guys. I don't care. Pull up with an Apple Watch to a watch meet and then say, guys, this is a watch that I really like. It functions. It works for me. I consider it a watch. I consider it a watch, and you can't talk me out of it. However, I am looking to get something that's a mechanical. I'm looking to get something. And believe you me, if someone said that to me at least, I would tell them, bro, I got you. Let's talk about it. What do you want? You're looking more for the affordable side. You're looking for more luxury, which I don't have too much experience in, but I can at least guide you in the right directions for you to get more information or connect you with people who collect high. You know what I mean? Like, it'll start the conversation. And a real enthusiast, I'm trying to be careful here. An enthusiast that sticks more towards the positive side, like me, is going to bring you into the circle. They're not going to tell you, oh, you got an Apple Watch? Yeah, I made it. You know what I mean? So that's just my take on it, guys. I hope I didn't ruffle any feathers with too many people here, but this is my personal opinion. If you have a different opinion than me, then that's completely fine. If you want to leave in the comments how you feel about what I've said today, or tell me what your strong, unwavering opinion is, I'm more than happy to read it. I check the comments all the time, and I'll respond to you guys. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll hopefully see you in the next one if I haven't rubbed you the wrong way too bad. Pause. Peace.